Back here on Sports Live, talked a lot about the NBA free agency, and it has been wild. Again, if you missed it off the top of the show tonight, DeMarcus Cousins now signing with Golden State. So you got Steph, you got Clay, you got Draymond, you got KD. Now you have Boogie Cousins at center on that team. Wow. I mean, they are going to be the overwhelming favorite once again next year. There's other good teams out west, but even with that, Golden State is going to be the overwhelming favorite to win again next year with that. We'll see if the Lakers can land Kawhi and add a little bit more to what they're trying to do with LeBron. They've changed the team already. They're going to be good. They're going to be one of the better teams in the NBA, mainly just for having LeBron. But can they take it to the next level? We'll see. We'll see how that plays itself out. NHL free agency, there have been a bunch of moves in the Central Division. I'm not sure anything to really take note of if you are a Predators fan. Maybe the two most notable to me, the Blues traded for Ryan O'Reilly from the Sabres, and they also get David Perron in a free agent deal from Vegas. A couple of forwards there that maybe give them a bit more punch up front. Meanwhile, Colorado, the Avalanche, who the Predators beat in the first round of the playoffs, have such a great offensive attack already, but you question their defense and you question their goaltending. Well, they go out and they sign Ian Cole, veteran defenseman, gives them a little bit more there, and they get Philip Grubauer, who basically was the reason Braden Holtby was benched at the end of the season in Washington. All Holtby has done in his career is be a Vezina Trophy candidate and winner at times and lead the Capitals to the Stanley Cup this year. Well, Philip Grubauer, from that experience and what he did in D.C., now goes to Colorado. So perhaps the Avalanche have finally found their goaltender, and if that's the case, that could be an interesting team to deal with because you know that top line with McKinnon and Landeskog and Rantanen, those guys are – that is a line to be reckoned with. There's no question about that. So if you up the defensive end, maybe Colorado takes a big step this year. But when you look at the teams that were the closest competition to the Predators, the Wild haven't done anything yet to this point, really. And the Jets lost Paul Stastny to Las Vegas, who, by the way, will be an interesting case study because they surprised everybody in year one. But because of that and the fact that they were battling for a division title and ultimately went to the Stanley Cup final, the pieces that everybody assumed, like at James Neal, that they were going to trade away for more pieces to help them build long-term for years 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and on down the road, they didn't do any of that because they went after the Cup. Now, it's hard to fault them for that. It was an amazing run, amazing story, and something that people in Vegas will never forget. But James Neal then walked away today and signed a 5-year deal worth $28+ million in Calgary, and Vegas gets nothing for that. If William Karlsson leaves in free agency, which is possible, Vegas will get nothing for that. They already lost David Perron, so they've lost some pieces here with nothing coming back, no compensation for them. So how will Vegas bounce back, not just next year, but over the next several years, based off of what happened in year one? Not saying that they would trade that, not saying George McPhee wishes it didn't happen and he could have executed his original plan, because the Stanley Cup final berth in year one is phenomenal and buys you a lot of time, I would think. But it has thrown a wrench into the plan. So how do you bounce back from that if you're Vegas now? They did get Stastny, though. So we'll see. Obviously, the biggest name to go in free agency, John Tavares signing for 7 years and a whole bunch of money in Toronto to team up there with Austin Matthews and company. Predators haven't really done much. They've signed 4 guys that are likely minor leaguers. Zach Rinaldo today is a guy who's played 328 games in the National Hockey League, but he signed on a 2-way deal. So I think in all likelihood, he's a guy that starts in Milwaukee, maybe gives you some depth up here at this level at this point. But no deals at this moment that lead you to believe someone is coming up to the level to play for the Predators immediately next year that can be a big impact. maybe those guys were at development camp last week with the Predators. We talked some with Dante Fabro last week. We had him on Sunday Sports Central a week ago. Sunday, played that interview for you right here on this program last week. He has a decision to make. He's going back to Boston University this year for his junior year. That's for sure. So he's not going to be up at the start of the season. But when that ends, I expect the Predators to put a full court press on Fabro to see if he wants to then sign and come play in the National Hockey League, perhaps joining the team as soon as the end of the regular season and for a playoff run next year. Fabro is a guy everybody thinks highly of as a blue liner to fit in behind those top 4 defensemen. And the biggest thing is, if once you get past next year, then you're into the final year of your rights with him. And after what the Preds went through with Jimmy Vesey, I know they do not want to go through that again. So I imagine they'll put the full court pressure on and see what happens with him in that situation. The other guy everybody's talking about is Eeli Tolvanen. Obviously, we saw him make his NHL debut this spring. He's a guy that had a wonderful year in terms of Olympic success and KHL success and World Championship success, and then he makes his debut in the NHL. What can he be long-term for this team? We will find out. We will see. But the expectation is that Tolvanen will be here for training camp and that he will make this team, and the Predators are going to try and fit him in where they can. So Eeli Tolvanen is this next big piece for the Preds if he can be a big-time goal scorer and somebody who can help him out. 12, 15 goals next year as a 20-year-old kid would be absolutely phenomenal, and that's what they're hoping for. Wherever he fits in the lineup, that he can provide that kind of a punch. We got a full week to look at him last week in prospect camp and in the prospect game on Friday night. We caught up with Eeli Tolvanen after the game.
Second time going through this development camp, how did it feel as a whole this time? What did you get out of it this time around?
I don't know. I mean, it was kind of same in this last year, but just to take a new guy, I knew what to expect, so it wasn't that tough. But I knew it was a great week. We had worked hard for a whole week, and I mean, it was tough, but it was a lot of fun.
You talked about having more confidence this time around. Did you accomplish what you wanted to in not only this game, but in this week as a whole? Just kind of showing what you can do to this coaching staff.
I mean, the game was what it was, but I mean, the week was great. I think we worked our ass off in the track and on the ice and off the ice. So I mean, that was good for the whole group, and I mean, there's a bunch of great guys here, so it was great week.
Scott Nichols talks a lot about the Predator way, part of you guys, what it means to be a pro and be a market organization. What does that mean to you now that you've heard that speech a few times?
I mean, it means a lot. You need to be a great guy, get a great teammate, create the organization and all the coaching staff and trainers. So I mean, just a lifestyle, and just have to be kind for everyone.
What's the process like for you now, heading into this summer, as you try to make the team out of training camp?
Yeah, just try to work my ass off the whole summer and just go back home and try to have some fun and just get better.
How would you compare your comfort level right now to when you made your debut as a Predator?
I don't know. Of course, it's a different thing. Like, here's a lot of young guys here, but of course, I'm more comfortable with the coaches and all the training staff and with the organization. So I mean, it's easier to come for the camp next time.
Thanks, Good to get one
Sure. I mean, it was what it was. Pretty lucky bounce, but of course, it's nice to score in this kind of game.
Eeli Tolvanen, one of the goal scorers in Friday's Futures games. Good crowd, by the way. A lot of people on hand to come see out some of the young guys there. And that's what was maybe different about this year's development camp as some other years in the past, is you have some stars that you feel like will be in the gold permanently for this Predators team in the not-too-distant future. Sometimes you have guys who are top draft picks in and you think, wow, 3 or 4 years down the road, this guy might be a real factor for this team. With Tolvanen especially, you expect him to be in the lineup on night one. And Fabro could go whenever he decides to, maybe as soon as the end of next season. So potentially 2 guys on the ice Friday night in the Futures game could be very much a part of the presence for this team in 2018-2019. Got to take a break. When we come back, we'll hear from the guy who was the star Friday night. A lot of people watched for Tolvanen. A lot of people watched for Fabro. But somebody else took over the game. We'll tell you his story, and we'll hear from him next. Stay with us. You're watching Sportsline here on News Channel 5+.